This story begins with Jakub, a Czech astronaut who has been on a solitary mission for 189 days, reaching into the outer edges of the solar system. When he wakes from a dream in which he was walking through a forest, he prepares for a video conference with Earth. Commissioner Tuma greets him from the Eurospace program's Mission Control, and Jakub responds excitedly from just outside Jupiter, explaining that the reason for his journey is right in front of him. The Chopra cloud, a phenomenon that has hovered in Earth's sky for 4 years, and whose images have captivated the world. In less than a week, Jakub will collect and analyze the particles that make up this cloud, because, although they still don't know what they are or where they come from, there is a possibility that entering it might unravel some mysteries of the universe. During the conference, a young girl named Anna asks him if it's true that he is the loneliest man in the world. Jakub admits that yes, he is 500 million kilometers away and no one is accompanying him on the mission, but he adds that he knows he will return soon because he is almost at the halfway point to his scheduled return. Furthermore, he can speak with people from all over the world and with mission control. When Tuma mentions his wife, Lenka, Jakub assures everyone that they talk every day through a communication system faster than the speed of light, concluding that he is not the loneliest man in the world. However, when the conference ends with a commercial break, we see that things on Earth are not going well. Lenka has recorded a message for Jakub telling him that she loves him, but that people change, and if you don't let them change, they die. So this is over. At Mission Control, Commissioner Tuma receives this message and makes a drastic decision. Jakub will not see this video because he is under too much pressure and isn't sleeping, so she will speak to Lenka herself and keep the astronaut distracted. Meanwhile, Jakub contacts Peter, his direct link to Control, to ask for approval on another toilet repair because it makes noise every night and won't let him sleep. Peter asks if he was able to rest, and Jakub admits he tried, but that he might look bad because the toilet keeps bothering him. When Jakub asks if they've heard anything from Lenka, Peter simply replies, no. Jakub tries to call his wife repeatedly, but she doesn't answer, and we can see that she is pregnant. Frustrated by the silence, the astronaut takes some sleeping drops, but hours later he has a nightmare where he discovers a spider moving inside his body until it emerges from his mouth and he wakes up startled. The next day, during a sample collection simulation, Jakub reports that half of the ship's cameras aren't working and no one understands what is happening. He asks for someone to go to his house because he hasn't heard from Lenka in days, and Peter, knowing the truth about the breakup message, simply promises to get in touch with her. As Jakub tries to communicate with his wife again, the signal cuts out and he hears a male voice asking if he can help him. Scared, Jakub contacts Peter to ask if someone could have hacked the system, but Peter assures him it is secure and that it was probably interference. Additionally, he informs him that they found out Lenka is on her way to visit her mother and will be back in a couple of days. That night, Jakub hears movement and discovers that someone has been eating his food. When he opens the bathroom door, he comes face to face with a giant spider. Terrified, he closes it immediately and contacts Peter to check the security camera, but it turns out that was the first camera to break down. The spider speaks to him with the same voice he heard before, explaining that it was attracted by the sounds of the toilet, and although it assures him its intention is not to scare him, Jakub locks himself in the airlock and demands that they decontaminate the ship. Peter says the sensors aren't registering anything, but Jakub insists because he needs to be sure before the critical phase of the mission. To authorize the decontamination, Peter asks him to say the sponsor's slogan, and Jakub recites the commercial for the decontaminating product before activating it. As the gas fills the ship, Jakub experiences hallucinations where he remembers Lenka promising him that she will go where he goes, and vice versa. When the atmosphere returns to normal, the spider seems to have disappeared, and Peter suggests he speak with a psychiatrist because his mental well-being could jeopardize the mission, but Jakub assures him he is fine and needs to get back to work. However, as soon as he leaves the airlock, the spider appears above him, telling him it can feel his fear but does not want to do him any harm. The creature explains that the earthly cleaning agents caused him no pain, only a sneeze, and assures him that he doesn't need his protective suit because he isn't going to consume or contaminate him. When Jakub tries to touch him, the spider asks him not to because in his tribe, the body must not be violated. Intrigued, Jakub asks what he is doing there, and the spider replies that he is an explorer traveling through the outer reaches of the solar system when he felt the pull of humans. He observed Earth, studied its history, and learned its languages, but never managed to understand them. That was when he found Jakub's ship, whose loneliness intrigued him, and although his initial intention was to study him for a day or two, he later wanted to know more and has come to understand that perhaps he can help him. Jakub, convinced he is losing his mind, simply ignores him and goes to sleep. Jakub continues to have trouble sleeping, and when he wakes, he is tormented by memories of arguments with Lenka, where she claims that when you love someone, you have to amputate a piece of who you are and replace it with a piece of the other, asking him what it is that he sacrifices. The spider appears again and offers to help him with his emotional problems because it seems his partner is slipping away and perhaps his presence can alleviate his loneliness, but Jakub tells him he doesn't want his help. Meanwhile, on Earth, Lenka talks to her mother about a place in the countryside for pregnant women who are alone, where they live together and support each other during childbirth and the first few weeks. Her mother doesn't understand why she prefers to be surrounded by strangers and tells her it's a bad time to make those decisions. But Lenka replies that she should have done it a long time ago. Commissioner Tuma meets with Lenka and explains that her job is to protect Jakub, so she won't give him the breakup message because now he needs to believe they are still a love story. Lenka tells her that she didn't put him in that dangerous place, but Tuma insists that you don't abandon your husband when he is far away, and that the silence is the point, both in the same communication system, together in silence, tired, fearful, enduring. Back on the ship, the spider follows Jakub as he tries to maintain his boundaries, forbidding him from entering the bathroom and the refrigerator. The creature tells him he has many boundaries and that perhaps they are the cause of his loneliness. When he asks if he has eggs because he would like to try them, Jakub explains that he doesn't have any because they spoil. Instead, he offers him hazelnut spread, and the spider tastes it, saying it is rich and creamy like the larvae from his home. When Jakub asks where his home is, the spider replies that it no longer exists because the Garumpets came for them, so he escaped his planet, crossed galaxies and black holes, fleeing through the universe across time seeking solitude, until he found him. As they observe the beautiful Chopra cloud, the spider tells him it contains much wisdom and that when he was young, he caught its grains with his tongue because they come from the beginning. Jakub asks how old he is and if his species doesn't die. And the spider replies that everything that begins must end, even the universe itself. At that moment, Jakub has a memory where he is with Lenka and both promise to go where the other goes. The spider asks him why make a promise that is easily broken and what the purpose of such a commitment is. Jakub asks him to stop doing that, but the creature insists that those are his memories and that he is only finding them alongside him, asking why he yearns for his partner only when she leaves and where that yearning was when they were together. The spider tells him that this conflict with Lenka awakened something in her that she doesn't recognize and that his memories make him feel depressed, but that the hazelnut spread made his discovery less unpleasant. When Jakub asks if he has a name, the spider replies that he has never had one, so Jakub decides to call him Hanus, after a man who built the astronomical clock in Prague and measured the movements of the stars and planets. The spider accepts the name with curiosity. Hanus begins to explore Jakub's memories in more depth and asks about his father. Jakub tells him that he was killed for what he believed was the truth, that he was on the wrong side of history because he was a good man who did bad things. He was an informant for the Communist Party. Hanus asks if he thinks this great mission will atone for his father's sins and advises him that he should focus more on the living because now it is his turn to be a father. The creature also asks him why the upcoming arrival of his daughter causes Lenka so much stress. And although Jakub says that isn't the case, Hanus perceives a lot of dread in his feelings. He then accesses a painful memory. Lenka lost their first child and Jakub was absent. She begged him to come home because she felt alone, but he downplayed it, saying he had an emergency. Hanus points out that Lenka is alone again with their new daughter, and he isn't there, asking him why the pain he causes is valuable to him. Peter informs Jakub that they have identified the issue with Lenka's communication system and that engineers are working to fix it. Jakub continues practicing his collection drills, and Peter reminds him that he has been there for 6 months. He adds that in 45 hours, Jakub will be the first to enter the cloud, telling him how proud they are of him. Suddenly, an old recording of an argument with Lenka begins to play. In it, she tells him that while he claims he wants to come back to her, he also says he wants to know what lies beyond Jupiter. She accuses him of leaving whenever he dreams. At that moment, a particle from the Chopra cloud appears inside the ship, and Jakub tries unsuccessfully to contain it. Jakub tries to contact mission control, but no one answers. Hanus confronts him directly. Despite everything they have deciphered together, Jakub remains focused on his great discovery, ignoring every broken promise except the one made to his mission. The Spider asks how he failed to understand that Lenka would eventually lose the will to believe in him. He explains that it is impossible to connect with someone who refuses to see anything beyond himself and who only wants to connect when it is convenient. At first, Hanus thought humans were simply selfish by nature, but through Lenka, he now sees the truth. Jakub's loneliness is self-inflicted. Hanus tells him that his interest in him has expired and that he will leave him to his mission. Jakub begs Hanus not to leave, telling him he needs him and that if he is helping him, he must be listening. The Spider replies that he is beyond saving. When Jakub attempts to touch him, Hanus subdues him with his legs, reminding him that he prefers not to be touched. He tells Jakub that he needs to return with a very different kind of discovery, yet he only sees himself. The Spider bids him farewell, wishing him luck before disappearing, leaving Jakub completely alone in the silence of space. Sunk in loneliness, Jakub begins to recall on his own the moment he met Lenka. She took him to a secret place, a field where she wanted to live, and proposed that perhaps they could trade secrets, suggesting that maybe he wanted to kiss her. Jakub said he did, and she simply told him to do it. These memories fill him with pain, and he finally manages to re-establish communication with Peter, who says everyone panicked imagining what might have happened to him. Jakub reassures him that everything is fine, and the ship is doing what it is designed to do. But before giving any report, he orders him to go to his house to check on Lenka. Peter warns him that the Koreans are right behind him, but Jakub insists. Peter arrives at Lenka's house, and the first thing he tells her is that Jakub is alive. She reacts with annoyance, calling him an idiot, but Peter explains that he isn't there to interfere in whatever is happening between them. Only that, in the interest of mission safety, he needs to do what he can to ease Jakub's mental state. He tells her that her husband just wants her to listen to him, and hands her a satellite phone before leaving the room. Over the phone, Jakub tells Lenka that he understands now. He asks if she remembers when he said he wanted to see beyond Jupiter, because now he can't imagine anything worse and just wants to come home. He confesses that when they met, he felt safe for the first time in his life, and he can't understand why he always left her behind when she is the only thing that matters to him. He asks for forgiveness for not making the effort to know her, even though she strove to know him. Jakub acknowledges that she was right there in front of him and he didn't see her, that he has lived a life for the wrong reasons, that he is a waste, and that he doesn't deserve her and never has. He ends by saying that if he could do it again, he would do better, and that is a promise he would never break, repeating over and over for her to forgive him. As the ship enters the Chopra cloud, Jakub feels Hanus's presence in his mind and calls out to him. The Spider appears beside him, saying he saw him purge himself and that he should rest. Upon waking, Jakub asks him not to leave him again, and Hanus replies that he cannot let him face the beginning alone, and that he has understood that Jakub doesn't want to be alone either. But something strange is happening to the Spider. He looks distressed and confesses he hasn't been completely honest. He reveals that when the Gorompets came for his people, they consumed his young and the elders, and although he escaped his world, he did so too late. Jakub asks why he didn't say anything before, and Hanus replies that he never asked. Jakub then asks permission to hug him, and for the first time, Hanus accepts human contact. The big day arrives, and Hanus wakes Jakub for a toast before the incursion. The Spider with his hazelnut spread, and Jakub with a bottle of alcohol, like a sacred ritual. Peter informs him that they have started broadcasting his last pre-recording because they had no choice with the cameras off. Commissioner Tuma presents the historic moment to the world while Lenka watches on TV. Jakub thanks the Czech people, the sponsors, and Lenka for her love and infinite support. As the ship enters the cloud, Jakub deploys the hydraulic arms to collect samples, But soon communications suffer interference and everything begins to fail. Hanus enters a critical state as the Gorumpets begin to consume him from the inside, and Jakub sees him floating outside the ship. Peter orders him to abort the mission because they are detecting numerous failures, but Jakub replies that there is something he has to do. Ignoring orders, he puts on his spacesuit, grabs a canister of decontamination gas, and exits through the airlock. Jakub propels himself with the gas toward Hanus, losing the tether anchoring him to the ship, but manages to reach his friend. The spider tells him his efforts with the decontaminant were heroic, but that the Gorumpets will soon weaken him and consume his flesh, though they still have some time. As they float together, Jakub tells him this reminds him of when he almost drowned as a child, when he could see the sun through the bright green water as he sank. He then says aloud that he absolves his father of his sins and also absolves himself. Hanus takes him to the center of the cloud and shows him the beginning and the end. All vibrations of all time contained there, the past and the future. Every promise, every disappointment, every atonement. Everything is permanent, and yet nothing is. That is the truth of the universe. Jakub shows Hanus his own beginning with Lenka, the moment he saw her for the first time and knew he wanted good things for her. The spider asks what is missing there if he thought that was all he wanted, and Jakub replies that Lenka is not there. Hanus tells him it is time, that he is a little afraid, but can let go now. Jakub gives him the hazelnut spread as a farewell, and as the spider tastes it one last time, he says it tastes like home. Hanus fades away, consumed by the Gorumpets, and the cloud opens, leaving a clear path. Jakub floats alone until a Korean ship rescues him. At dawn, Lenka receives a call. It is Jakub, telling her that if he had known then what he knows now, he never would have left. She replies that if she had known what she knows now, she would have kissed him. They talk about that first kiss, implying that their love story still has hope.